hour or so from the official parade. But if we can go to those pictures, we'll show you riot police are in heavy supply here. There are many different agencies involved, state, local, federal, all coordinating with military adjunct as well. You're hearing the sounds of those protests and also the deterrent devices by police. These are live pictures now of what's going on just a couple of blocks away. We're not sure what it is. Allison, there have been some pockets of protest so far,
yes.
Nothing major.
Right, we've walked by some pockets of protest. We have our Renee Marsh, who is on the scene, who can give us a better sense of what's happening. Renee, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can tell it is very, very chaotic. We have people throwing rocks at riot police. We also have them deploying pepper gas to get people to stop throwing these rocks. It is true that people are running in multiple directions. Riot police are essentially trying to get this in order. This started out as...
This is happening at the corner of 12th.
And then all of a sudden...
12th and K Street. I don't know. Renee's coming in and out. Let's try and keep her going if you can hear her well at home. Renee, let's hear from you again.
If you can hear me. All right, guys. I am at the corner of K and 12th. And I can tell it's touch and go because people are running in multiple directions.
Yeah.
All right, so Renee's dropping out. Some of that sound you're hearing, just so you understand, we don't know the full details of this situation, but riot police are equipped with what are called flashbangs. They create light and sound to disorient people in a protest or a riot situation like this. Renee just reported to us that there is some throwing of rocks. There's some dispensing of pepper spray or something like it. We have Brian Todd, who is nearby. Brian, can you hear us? Let's see if we can hear you.
Chris, I can't hear you. This is a very, very large crowd. Not where Renee was. More peaceful here. They're marching toward McPherson Square. Several thousand here. We have had a lot of unrest in the city, not far from where we're standing. Aside from what Renee said, there was severe damage to some buildings, some businesses. The windows of a Starbucks not far from here just got obliterated not too long ago. There have been numerous arrests on the streets of Washington. Right now, we are about a block and a half away from the White House, entering McPherson Square. Huge crowd here, and they're planning to go into the square here and protest. So we're going to see how the police respond to this. But again, we've had some unrest. We've had some police injuries earlier. At least 2 police officers were injured, and numerous arrests have been made. Chris?
Yeah. Okay, Brian, thank you for all of that. We're watching it in a split screen right now. Look, it's a very emotional day here in Washington, D.C. We've seen it, Chris, since you and I arrived on the scene at 4 in the morning. People are very excited for the promise of this new president, and other people have come here from across the country angry with their signs. And when they clash, you can see this is happening. Well, Renee Marsh is there in the middle of it. She joins us again. Renee, tell us what you're seeing.
All right. Well, I can tell you that it is very unsettling in the sense that people are moving in multiple directions. What we had is a situation of people throwing bottles and rocks at police officers. It came to a point where they were face to face in the middle of this intersection of K and 12th Street, and that's when riot police moved in. They started deploying pepper spray. But despite that, people continued to throw literally large chunks of rock at police officers, and of course that set off what was already a large crowd, just people frantically running in multiple directions. Where I'm standing right now, what I'm seeing is the same images that you're seeing, which is riot police in the center of this intersection, and individuals, despite them deploying the pepper spray, continue to throw chunks of concrete at these officers, bottles at these officers. I bumped into one man. He had a bloody nose. He said that he tried to stop an individual from throwing objects at police, and that's when an individual punched him in the face. So clearly,
All right, Renee.
the emotions are extremely high at this point, and we are seeing.
Renee, monitor the situation for us. There are a lot of different pockets of activity. This is a nook and cranny city, D.C., so it's very hard for them to create a perimeter. What we saw with the riot police, and we're seeing continue now, is what they call a fall line. This is an area that they don't want the protesters to go beyond. We saw the protesters were using some newspaper distribution cans, and they were laying them out as their own line. Now, what you're seeing with this phalanx of police is this is the hold line. This is where they want the protesters to stay. There's no direct engagement with the protesters. In between the two groups, there's a line of media. That's a precarious place to be in. A lot of those camera photojournalists are there. We'll stay on monitoring this situation. But as long as it stays like this, we won't dwell on it too long until there's something to report.
And that's the point. We don't want this to eclipse the excitement of all of the people who have come here for Mr. Trump's inauguration. You know, obviously people came here to exercise their First Amendment rights, but when it turns violent, that's a different situation.
Then it's a crime. A protest is protected.
Yes, a riot is violent. So,
right.
David Gregory, you're here with Chris and me. So can you put this into perspective for us in terms of inaugurations past?
Well, there's always going to be protests, and we're going to see big protests here over the weekend opposed now President Trump. It's hard to tell from this vantage point what this is. It could be people who just want to make trouble. It seems to be a lot more cops and media than there are protesters based on the images so far. Certainly what I've seen in walking around are not a lot of protesters. There are pockets. There's a lot of excited people here, people who are excited. Again, you look at images of the tear gas that can belie that. And again, we're going to have to hold these two images. That's only a few blocks from where we are right now. But where we are along the parade route, there's an extremely peaceful and excited group of people who are here to see the parade.
That could also just be a deterrent device that they have. If it were tear gas, I can promise you those people wouldn't be staying where the cloud is. They'd be dispersing. So we just lost our live picture from there. We'll get back to it when we can. Now remember, one of the reasons we're showing you it is the main event hasn't started yet. The inaugural parade and its mile-and-a-half expanse is going to take place just behind us, and it starts in about an hour from now. And as we've traveled around the city, there are pockets of protesters here. As David said, it's hard to get a specific number of this. The police are holding their line. But overwhelmingly, you have people here who are celebrating our new president.
Oh, everywhere we've gone, Chris. I mean, you and I have been in coffee shops. We've been on the street most of the morning. We've been traversing this city, and people have come up to us to tell us how excited they are, to tell us how they've come from all over the country, how they've come with their parents. So this, again, is just horribly unfortunate that something is turning violent. It didn't have to. Obviously, there are people here for the march tomorrow, but they were here, they said, to just exercise their First Amendment rights. So this is unfortunate. But where we are, yes, David?
I would just say, let's also point out, I mean, as you have, I've covered protests around the globe at big globalization events, at big summits. You've got people who come into these crowds, too, who are really there to make trouble. If you had a chance to talk to them, I don't know that they would have a coherent agenda against the new president of the United States. They may want to just get this kind of attention. So it's very difficult to really capture what we've got here, but it is kind of juxtaposed alongside a lot of excitement just along the parade.
Right, and so where we are, there's people lining the streets very peacefully.
These are anti-war protesters, it looks like. No allegiance to deadly force.
Yeah, behind us, if you can hear the ambient noise, there's a little bit of a protest marching through behind us, but there's not making any trouble.
And just to introduce you to what you're seeing, if you're just turning on your screen right now, we're looking at one of the pockets of protests that have come here as we're awaiting the commencement of the official inaugural parade. You're seeing smoke clouds from deterrent devices that are being launched by the riot police that are lined up. We have some protesters behind us who are chanting as they walk by us here on the inaugural parade route. We're not sure what the protest situation is that's on your screen right now. There are some people there. How many? We're not sure. There has been a use from our reporters on the scene of pepper spray. Again, you're seeing those smoke clouds, which are part of the deterrent to move the line of protesters back. There's a huge line of media there as well. But thus far, what you're seeing on the screen has been the extent in the context of some 90 arrests that have taken place.